Most people believe intelligence is about having a high IQ, but Machiavelli would laugh at that lie, because true intelligence has levels, and most of humanity never escapes the first. By the end of this video, you'll discover not just how intelligent you are, but how to rise to the level where others become predictable, and you become untouchable. Lauville Westsi, Tichi imitators. Most people believe they think for themselves, but they do not. They imitate. Their minds are mirrors, not engines. Their beliefs are borrowed. Their convictions second-hand, and their emotions rehearsed by others long before they feel them. These are the imitators. The first and lowest level of intelligence, the ones who live not by reason, but by repetition. Look around you. The streets are filled with them. They dress as others dress, speak as others speak, and even love as others love. They hold opinions they never examined, defend causes they never understood, and obey rules they never questioned. Their intelligence is not self-created, it is inherited. The sum of what parents, teachers, and leaders poured into them. They mistake memory for wisdom and information for understanding. An imitator consumes endlessly news, gossip, advice, trends, believing that by absorbing everything, they will grow wise. Yet their mind is like a cup without a bottom. No matter how much you pour in, nothing stays. For knowledge without reflection is like a sword without a handle, sharp but useless. The imitator seeks comfort in belonging. He fears isolation, not ignorance. To think differently would make him an outcast, and nothing terrifies him more than being unloved by the herd. So, he conforms. He quotes the fashionable philosopher, repeats the popular slogan, and joins the righteous crowd. He mistakes collective noise for truth. Machiavelli pauses, his tone cold and calm. Society loves imitators because they are easy to govern. They obey laws without question. They work without resistance. They consume without awareness. They are the foundation upon which every system of power rests. Their obedience is not enforced by chains, but by the illusion of choice. They believe they are free, yet every thought in their mind was planted by another. The imitator's intelligence is survival-based. His purpose is not to see the truth, but to fit in. He learns how to behave, not how to think. He copies the behaviors of the strong, but never understands the strategy behind their strength. He calls himself educated, but his education is imitation with a diploma. Such a man can read 1,000 books and still be blind, because what he lacks is not information, but the courage to doubt. The imitator follows authority blindly, the priest, the politician, the influencer, the expert. He believes them because questioning them would require standing alone, and standing alone is the one act he cannot perform. In every era, these men fill the armies, the offices, and the temples. They are not evil, they are merely unconscious. They serve systems they never chose and defend values they never tested. The imitator's tragedy is not that he is unintelligent, but that he never learns to think beyond imitation. He seeks answers outside himself, never realizing that the greatest intelligence begins when one stops copying and starts observing. He doesn't create ideas, he collects them like trophies. His conversations are rehearsed performances of borrowed thoughts. He fears silence, for silence reveals the emptiness of his mind. Machiavelli leans in, voice lowering to a whisper. A ruler must understand this level deeply, for the imitator is the easiest to control, not through force, but through influence. Make him feel part of something, and he will obey you willingly. Offer him belonging, and he will give you his loyalty. Feed his need for validation, and he will guard your throne as if it were his own. This is why power always disguises itself as virtue. The imitator does not see manipulation, he sees meaning. He wants heroes to worship and villains to hate. Simple roles that make the world less frightening. Tell him what side he stands on, and he will fight for you, even against his own interests. At this level, intelligence is asleep. The mind is reactive, not reflective. The imitator's identity is borrowed, his pride hollow, his will non-existent. He cannot see the strings attached to his back, because they make him feel safe. But every puppet calls his master God until the show ends. The imitator does not grow, he repeats. He does not reason, he reacts. His thoughts are echoes bouncing off the walls of the collective mind. And when truth finally reaches him, it feels like an insult. He calls it arrogance, conspiracy, or madness, anything but awakening. Such a mind cannot perceive truth because it fears it. Truth demands independence, and independence demands solitude. To think is to stand alone, and standing alone feels like death to the imitator. So he remains where he feels warm, among the crowd, among the noise, among the endless cycle of imitation. But in rare moments of silence, when the world's noise fades, he begins to sense something. A faint voice within him asks, "What if everything I believe was given to me for someone else's benefit?" That is the beginning of transformation. That is the birth of the second level of intelligence. Because when imitation dies, curiosity is born. Leviel 20 Lichiel me and D. At this second level, the mind begins to awaken. It no longer accepts every idea as sacred. It begins to ask why. The man who was once content to follow now hungers to understand. He starts questioning laws, structures, and doctrines. He studies logic, science, and reason, believing that clarity will set him free. He learns the language of systems, the way things work, the cause and effect of the world around him. For the first time, he experiences the intoxication of independent thought. But what he does not yet see is that this level, too, is a cage, only made of reason instead of obedience. His world becomes mechanical, precise, structured. He begins to see patterns, yet he still sees them from the outside. He has not yet learned to bend the pattern, only to trace its lines. He now serves not the crowd, but the system itself. He worships logic the way the imitator once worshipped authority. He believes every truth can be proven, every mystery solved, every problem reduced to method. He becomes rational, but not yet wise. The imitator has begun to question. He opens his eyes for the first time and discovers that the world is not what it seems. The beliefs that once felt sacred begin to crumble under the weight of reason. He wants to know why things are the way they are. He seeks logic, clarity, and structure. This is the birth of the logical mind. The second level of intelligence, the realm of the thinker who replaces imitation with inquiry. At this stage, the mind transforms from a mirror into a tool. The imitator, once a slave to opinion, now becomes a student of order. He begins to analyze instead of absorb. He finds comfort not in the crowd's approval, but in the clean, cold lines of reason. He builds his mind like an architect, brick by brick, principle by principle. He studies philosophy, science, politics, mathematics, not because he seeks power yet, but because he seeks understanding. He believes that if he can know the laws that govern the world, he can finally make sense of his own existence. He is no longer driven by emotion, but by logic. He has replaced superstition with analysis, chaos with pattern. But logic, like religion, can become another form of worship. The logical man begins to worship systems, political, moral, scientific, even economic. He believes truth lives inside structure. He believes that following reason will always lead to freedom. Yet he doesn't realize that logic can build prisons too. Prisons so elegant that one mistakes the bars for beauty. He begins to see himself as superior to the imitators, and in one sense he is. He no longer follows the crowd blindly. He examines data, debates ideas, and questions everything. But deep beneath this rational pride lies another form of blindness, the belief that reason alone is truth. He measures intelligence by information. He confuses precision for wisdom. He believes that everything valuable can be counted, proven, and explained. Yet some of the greatest truths in power, emotion, and human nature cannot be dissected under a microscope. They can only be understood by experience, and the logical mind, in its arrogance, often avoids that experience. Machiavelli's tone sharpens. A ruler must understand this stage, because it breeds both the engineer and the servant. Logical minds become excellent at obeying the structure they study. They master the rules, but rarely question the purpose behind them. They become advisors, technicians, and scholars, useful, intelligent, and safe. But they are still bound by the very logic they worship. The logical man is a student of order, but not yet a master of power. He is like a soldier who knows every weapon, but not the strategy of war. His thoughts are sharp, but his vision remains narrow. He understands systems, but not the people who created them. And therefore, he cannot yet bend those systems to his will. He clings to certainty. He needs evidence before belief, rules before risk, structure before movement. Yet power belongs not to those who wait for proof, but to those who act before it appears. The logical man hesitates while the strategist moves. The logical man debates, the strategist decides. The logical man perfects the plan, the strategist wins the war. Still, this level is necessary. It is the refining fire that burns away ignorance. Without logic, intelligence remains emotional and chaotic. The mind must learn to think with structure before it can think with freedom. For logic is not the destination, it is the training ground. Here, the individual becomes disciplined. He learns that every decision has consequences, every action has cause and effect. He begins to understand that emotion clouds judgment, and that order brings power. He learns the value of restraint, the art of patience, and the importance of control. But what he doesn't yet see is that control of logic is not the same as control of life. The logical man still obeys the limits of the system. He lives inside formulas others created, theories others wrote, and definitions others approved. He cannot yet break rules because he still believes in them. He has not yet realized that every system, no matter how rational, serves a hidden agenda. Every philosophy, every law, every ideology is born from someone's ambition. Behind every system stands a strategist who once used logic not as a guide, but as a weapon. Machiavelli's voice lowers. True intelligence begins when one stops worshipping logic and starts using it. When you realize that logic is not a god, but a servant. The wise use reason to cut through illusion, but they do not let reason rule their soul. For the man who serves logic will always be predictable, and predictability is weakness in the game of power. Predictable minds can be controlled. The ruler who understands logic can control those who worship it. Give them data, and they will think they have the truth. Give them evidence, and they will never look for a motive. Make them think everything can be proven, and they will forget that the most dangerous truths are always hidden behind what cannot be proven. The logical mind is efficient, but it lacks vision. It organizes what already exists, but rarely imagines what could exist. It is the servant of the strategist. Precise but not dangerous, the world respects such minds, but it never fears them, and power respects only what it fears. The logical man spends his life chasing clarity, but life itself is not clear. It is uncertain, chaotic, and filled with contradictions. To navigate it, one must learn not only to think, but to think strategically. The next level of intelligence is not about logic, but about leverage. It is not about understanding systems, but about bending them to your will. And so, the logical man stands at a crossroads. He can remain safe within his order, believing that truth is contained within rules and structure, or he can step beyond it and enter the dangerous, seductive world of strategy, where knowledge is not used to understand, but to control. LVL 30 TST Here, intelligence takes on its sharpest edge. The thinker who once served logic begins to see the strings behind every system. He no longer studies rules to follow them. He studies them to learn how to break them. He realizes that every human, every belief, every system has a weakness. The moment a man begins to see the hidden strings that move the world, he steps into the third level of intelligence, the realm of the strategic thinker. Here, logic transforms from a cage into a weapon. The man who once served systems now begins to manipulate them. He no longer asks, "What is true?" He asks, "What is useful?" He understands that intelligence is not merely the ability to think, but the ability to think ahead. At this level, the mind becomes dangerous. It is no longer limited by rules or bound by the illusion of fairness. The strategic thinker studies human behavior not for curiosity, but for control. He learns the rhythms of desire, fear, ambition, and weakness, the invisible gears that drive every action. He realizes that people are not logical, they are emotional, predictable, and manipulable. This is the birth of true Machiavellian thought, when reason marries instinct and intelligence becomes a weapon of influence. The strategic thinker does not waste energy proving he is right. He focuses on being effective. He no longer argues to win truth. he speaks to win people, for he knows that in this world, it is not truth that wins. It is persuasion. The logical man sought knowledge to understand. The strategic man sought knowledge to use. He watches the world like a chessboard, where every individual law and institution is a piece to be moved, not admired. He learns that timing is more powerful than talent, that silence often achieves more than argument, and that perception can shape reality itself. Machiavelli's tone darkens, sharp, deliberate, and calm. Most people believe intelligence means being good, but strategy reveals the truth. Morality, like everything else, can be bent. The strategic mind does not reject morality, it repurposes it. It knows that appearing virtuous can be more powerful than being virtuous. For the crowd sees the mask, not the man. The wise wear that mask like armor. Here, intelligence takes the form of manipulation, not always cruel, but always calculated. The strategist understands that every interaction is an exchange of power, a compliment, a favor, a silence. All are weapons if used with precision. He no longer reacts emotionally, he responds tactically. Even his kindness has intent. Even his mercy has meaning. But this level demands something the imitator and the logical man could never endure: detachment. The strategist cannot be ruled by ego, for ego clouds judgment. He must learn to watch without emotion, to plan without hesitation, and to act without guilt. For those who hesitate out of morality are devoured by those who act out of clarity. This is why most never reach this level. To see the world strategically is to see its darkness, to recognize that men lie for virtue, love for power, and kill for peace. It is to witness the hypocrisy beneath every noble ideal. But instead of despairing, the strategic mind learns to use that hypocrisy as currency. He becomes a master of reading people. He listens not to what they say, but to what they hide. He learns that flattery can open more doors than force, and that the most dangerous weapon in politics, business, or love is patience. While others rush to act, he observes. He lets his enemies reveal their intentions. He waits for the perfect moment to strike, when the cost is low and the reward immense. Machiavelli's voice grows more intimate. In my time, I watched rulers lose kingdoms because they could not think beyond their pride. I watched generals lose wars because they fought battles of emotion. But the few who mastered strategy, they ruled silently. They smiled when others raged. They retreated when others advanced. They let their opponents destroy themselves through overconfidence. Such minds do not fight for victory. They arrange for it. The strategic thinker understands that power is not taken. It is built through perception. Appear weak when you are strong. Appear humble when you are ambitious. Make others believe they are in control, and they will never resist you. Influence is not achieved through domination, but through invisible direction. He learns to play roles like an actor: the friend, the fool, the servant, the savior, whatever the situation demands. But behind each role, his mind remains cold and calculating. He knows that emotion is for performance, not decision. The greatest strategists are not cruel because they enjoy it. They are cruel because mercy, at the wrong time, destroys kingdoms. And yet, there is danger here. The strategist's power isolates him. He begins to see others as pieces, not people. Every smile becomes a possibility, every word a weapon. His mind grows sharp but heavy, for when you see too deeply, you can never again believe in innocence. Knowledge of manipulation breeds loneliness. The strategist learns to hide even from himself, but this loneliness is also freedom, for he has transcended the illusions that bind the weak: approval, fairness, comfort. He sees the game as it truly is. And once you see the game, you can never unsee it. The strategist knows that every system, no matter how powerful, has a flaw. Every human has a weakness. Every empire has a moment of vulnerability. And intelligence, at this level, is the art of identifying those weaknesses before anyone else does. The logical man studies the system, the strategist exploits it. But those who live by strategy alone eventually meet another wall. A ceiling made not of ignorance, but of ambition. For while the strategist can manipulate the present, he often remains trapped by it. He plays within the boundaries of systems, bending them to his will, but he does not yet create new ones. His power is great, but borrowed, limited to the structures that already exist. And so, the next transformation begins. One more rare and far more dangerous. The strategist begins to dream. He no longer wants to play within systems, he wants to design them. He no longer seeks advantage within reality, he wants to redefine it. His intelligence evolves beyond manipulation and begins to create worlds of its own. This is the dawn of the fourth level, the visionary, the one who no longer follows or bends systems, but becomes their author. The one who builds ideas that outlive his body and shapes the destiny of men without ever needing to rule them directly. The strategist learns to conquer people, the visionary learns to conquer time. Level 4, Th Vesa Onawai. At the fourth level of intelligence, a transformation occurs that few men ever experience. The strategist, who once mastered the art of bending systems, now grows dissatisfied with merely playing the game. He begins to sense something greater, the desire to create the game itself. This is the realm of the visionary, where intelligence transcends manipulation and begins to shape reality. The strategist's mind was precise, cold, and calculating, but it was bound by existing structures. The visionary, however, sees beyond them. He no longer asks, "How can I win within this system?" Instead, he asks, "Why does this system exist? And what could replace it?" This is the birth of true creative intelligence. Not the creativity of art, but the creativity of power. The visionary recognizes that every belief, every law, every social order is an invention, a story agreed upon by the masses. And if all systems are stories, then he who controls the story controls the world. Thus, he begins to write his own. Machiavelli's tone softens, calm, deliberate, like a man revealing a dangerous truth. The visionary understands that the most powerful ideas are not forced upon people, they are invited into their hearts. He knows that to rule minds, one must not dominate them, but inspire them. People do not die for logic, they die for meaning. The visionary provides that meaning. He gives humanity a purpose it did not have before, and in doing so, he becomes the architect of their future. Every great empire, every religion, every ideology was born in the mind of a visionary. They saw what others could not. They spoke of a destiny that others could not yet imagine. They took chaos and gave it direction. They replaced despair with narrative. And once their story spread, it became the invisible structure that billions obeyed without question. The visionary's intelligence is not limited to thought. It extends into imagination. Where the strategist analyzes, the visionary dreams. Where the strategist moves pieces, the visionary creates the board. His thoughts are not about advantage, they are about legacy. He no longer plays to win, he plays to shape what winning means. Yet, this level is not without its trials. The visionary must carry a burden that the strategist never knew, the burden of isolation. His thoughts are too vast for common minds. When he speaks, people misunderstand him. When he acts, people fear him. For vision requires courage to see what others are not yet ready to accept. The imitator finds comfort in the familiar. The logical man seeks safety in rules. The strategist finds pleasure in control, but the visionary stands alone, misunderstood, doubted, and often condemned. His ideas are too large for the present, and so he becomes a stranger to his own time. Machiavelli's voice deepens, almost reflective. In my own life, I witnessed this pattern endlessly. Men of vision are rarely praised while they live. The people who benefit from their creation later will first call them madmen, heretics, or tyrants. It is only after time has validated their foresight that the world renames them as geniuses. Every visionary must therefore accept a lonely truth. You must be hated before you are understood, and you must be doubted before you are obeyed. The visionary understands that true power lies not in ruling bodies, but in ruling belief. A general may conquer a nation, but a visionary can command generations long after his bones turn to dust. For ideas are more enduring than armies. An empire of swords will eventually fall, but an empire of meaning can survive for centuries. He knows that symbols are stronger than laws. People obey kings reluctantly, but they worship ideals willingly. The visionary creates the symbols, words, images, philosophies that define civilization. He gives people a language to think in, a narrative to live by, a vision to pursue. In essence, he creates the reality that others will later call truth. This level of intelligence is dangerous because it cannot be controlled. The imitator can be manipulated by belonging. The logical man can be confined by systems. The strategist can be distracted by ambition. But the visionary, he no longer serves any of these forces. He creates his own order. He is no longer part of history, he begins to write it. Such individuals become cultural architects. They are not limited to thrones or crowns. Their kingdoms exist in the minds of men. They rule silently, through ideas that become self-sustaining. Every politician quoting philosophy, every religion shaping morality, every ideology guiding nations, all are the echoes of visionaries long gone. The visionary does not chase followers. He creates movements. He understands that leadership is not about commanding the crowd, but awakening its hidden desire for transformation. He ignites the imagination of others, making them believe they are part of something divine, something inevitable. Once that belief takes root, he doesn't need to force loyalty. The people will chain themselves to his dream. Machiavelli's voice turns darker again. But there is a cost to such creation. The visionary becomes a prisoner of his own vision. Once an idea leaves his mind and enters the world, it no longer belongs to him. It takes a life of its own. His disciples may distort it, his enemies may weaponize it, and time may twist it beyond recognition. The visionary learns that to give birth to an idea is to lose control over it. Creation and loss become inseparable. And yet, he continues. For vision is not a choice, it is a compulsion. The visionary cannot live without building something larger than himself. His intelligence no longer seeks survival or power, it seeks immortality. Not the immortality of the body, but of thought. He builds legacies that transcend centuries, shaping the world silently long after he is gone. But eventually, something shifts. The visionary begins to understand that even creation is a trap. Every new system he builds will one day decay. Every ideology will be corrupted. Every truth will become dogma. Even the grandest vision, once realized, turns into another prison for future generations. And so, another awakening begins. The visionary starts to see beyond the cycle of creation and destruction. He begins to understand that intelligence is not about manipulating systems or building them, but about seeing through them entirely. He begins to detach from the illusion of control itself. What emerges next is the rarest form of intelligence known to man. Not the creator, not the manipulator, but the one who transcends both. The mind that no longer seeks to rule or to build, but to understand. The philosopher who stands above all systems and sees them as instruments, not identities. This is the birth of the fifth and highest level of intelligence. The transcendent, the philosopher, king, the one who is no longer bound by ambition, fear, or belief. Keynote 5: The architect of power. There is a final level of intelligence, the rarest of all. Few ascend to it, and fewer still survive once they reach it. I call it the architect of power. This is not the intelligence of words or memory, nor of logic or reflection. It is the intelligence of design, the power to shape not only your destiny, but the reality in which others live. This level transcends knowledge. It transcends morality. It is the realm of those who see the world as clay and themselves as sculptors. At this level, the individual no longer reacts to life, he orchestrates it. He understands that power is not found in the truth, but in the control of perception. He becomes the writer of narratives, the weaver of illusions, the builder of structures that others mistake for fate itself. To him, intelligence is no longer about understanding what is, but creating what will be. When you observe such men and women, they seem almost supernatural. They predict events not because they see the future, but because they create it. They understand how human minds bend under pressure, how crowds obey when they are afraid, and how individuals surrender their will when offered comfort. The architect knows that intelligence without power is ornamental. Power without intelligence is dangerous. But when the two merge, they create dominion. He studies not only ideas, but influence. Not only knowledge, but narrative. For he understands that the human mind does not seek truth, it seeks meaning. And whoever controls meaning, controls men. This is why rulers and philosophers often clash. The philosopher seeks to reveal truth. The ruler seeks to shape it. And in shaping it, he rules both philosopher and fool alike. The architect of power knows that every great civilization was built upon an illusion carefully maintained by those who understood the psychology of the masses. Religion, law, money, these are not realities. They are agreements, illusions that gain strength through collective belief. The architect sees this clearly. While others bow to symbols, he studies their creation. While others argue about morality, he writes the moral code itself. You might believe this level of intelligence belongs to kings and tyrants alone, but you are mistaken. It exists in every arena of life. In politics, in business, in relationships. The architect might not wear a crown. He might wear a suit or even a smile. Yet behind that smile lies the mind of a strategist who calculates every word, every silence, every move as part of a larger design. He does not rush to act. He orchestrates events so that his desired outcome appears inevitable. To him, timing is everything. The world is a chessboard, and each decision is a piece moved with cold precision. His genius lies not in his intellect alone, but in his ability to disguise it. For the true master of intelligence never reveals his full depth. The architect's greatest strength is his invisibility. Those who reach this level understand that to remain in power, one must appear simple, humble, even ignorant. Because when people believe you are harmless, they show their intentions freely. When they underestimate you, you rule them without resistance. The fool seeks to be admired for his intellect. The architect seeks to be underestimated. The fool shows his brilliance like gold in the sun. The architect hides his diamonds in the dark. This is the paradox of the fifth level. The higher your intelligence climbs, the more you must appear ordinary. For when your power becomes visible, it invites envy. Envy births rebellion, and rebellion destroys empires. The architect of power remains unseen, letting others take the throne while he pulls the strings. To the public, he is a shadow. But to those who understand power, he is the architect behind the illusion of order. He does not argue with fools, he directs them. He does not compete with rivals, he positions them. He does not fight for dominance, he creates the stage upon which dominance is defined. Every failure becomes a lesson, every betrayal a tool, every obstacle a mirror, revealing human weakness. But what separates him most from the levels below is his relationship with emotion. He has mastered detachment. He sees emotion as both a weapon and a weakness. He does not kill his emotions, he commands them. For he knows a ruler without passion is a machine, but a ruler enslaved by passion is a fool. His emotions serve him, never control him. In love, he remains cautious. In friendship, strategic. In enmity, patient. He knows that the most dangerous weapon is not the sword or the gun. It is trust. When others trust you blindly, you possess their minds. And with their minds, their world becomes your design. The architect of power also understands the hidden economy of attention. In every age, the resource that determines dominance changes, from gold to land, from oil to information. But the modern ruler knows the true currency is attention. Whoever controls attention controls reality. For what men focus on, they empower. What they ignore, they erase. The fifth level of intelligence allows one to become both visible and invisible at will. He appears when influence must be asserted and vanishes when conflict brews. He never argues, because argument exposes weakness. Instead, he whispers ideas that others believe to be their own. That is the highest form of manipulation. Not to force obedience, but to make people act in your favor, while believing they are free. You may think this sounds cruel, but it is merely the nature of power. Men are ruled not by truth, but by story. And every society survives on stories carefully designed by its architects. Those who understand this live above the masses. Those who do not become tools in the designs of others. At this level, intelligence becomes indistinguishable from art. The world itself becomes the canvas, and the human condition, the brush. The architect no longer thinks of morality or immorality. He thinks of effectiveness. He measures actions not by what is right, but by what achieves purpose. He understands the laws of nature, survival, adaptation, dominance, and he uses them as his scripture. The fifth level does not seek validation. It seeks control. It does not ask questions. It creates answers. It does not follow systems. It builds them. And in the end, the architect of power becomes not just a man, but a symbol. a representation of what intelligence can achieve when it sheds the illusions of virtue and dares to design the world as it truly is. For the architect knows a final truth that separates him from all others. That intelligence is not the ability to see the world clearly. It is the power to make the world see as you desire it to be. And so, we have walked through the 5 levels of intelligence, from ignorance to mastery, from reaction to creation, from blindness to dominion. You have seen how the mind evolves, not through comfort, but through confrontation. The fool lives in the illusion of knowing. The thinker seeks understanding. The strategist bends logic to advantage. The philosopher transcends illusion. But the architect, he writes the laws by which others live. This journey is not for the faint-hearted. For to climb these levels, one must first destroy their old self, the self that seeks approval, safety, and belonging. Most men will never escape the first level because they fear solitude more than ignorance. They fear being misunderstood more than being powerless. But the mind that dares to rise must be willing to walk alone. Each level of intelligence is a mirror, and with every step upward, the mirror reflects more truth, not about the world, but about yourself. You begin to see your masks, your conditioning, your false beliefs. You begin to understand that intelligence is not inherited. It is earned through pain, observation, and ruthless honesty. And here lies the paradox: the more intelligent you become, the less you speak, the less you need to prove. For wisdom is not in showing your power, it is in knowing when to withhold it. The truly intelligent do not dominate by force, but by understanding. They move unseen, influence without claiming credit, and shape destiny without revealing their hand. Understand this: the purpose of intelligence is not to win arguments, but to win control over yourself. To master your impulses, your emotions, and your fears. For if you cannot command your own mind, you will always be commanded by another. And that, my friend, is the tragedy of the modern man. Educated, yet enslaved. Informed, yet directionless. Connected, yet hollow. So I ask you, which level are you in? Do you merely consume ideas, or do you create them? Do you live by stories written by others, or do you write your own? The measure of intelligence is not in how much you know, but in how deeply you understand the game being played around you. Remember, intelligence without power is noise. Power without intelligence is destruction. But when both unite, when the mind becomes both sword and shield, a new kind of human emerges, one who does not chase fate, but shapes it. The world does not belong to the clever or the good. It belongs to those who see. And to truly see is to awaken from the illusions that bind the rest. Rise above comfort. Question everything. Build your mind as a fortress. And when the world bends before you, remember, it was never the world that changed. It was you. For intelligence is not a gift of birth. It is the fire you forge within yourself. And only the fearless can bear its light.